Hello, I am Ruby Falconer. Today's date is August 3rd, 2020, and this is an astrological update for the upcoming week from the perspective of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. Today is a full moon, and this is a pretty intense full moon. I often talk about the full moon window, which is the 3-day period that extends from the day before the exact full moon, which would be yesterday, up to the day after, which would be tomorrow. So right in the midst of this. And today is the actual full moon day. That window is a time when the full moon energy is very prominent. And so this is an intense time as I'm recording this and speaking to you. This particular full moon is in Aquarius, and it is affected by a T-square. A T-square is like a three-legged table. It's a four-legged table, excuse me, that's missing a leg. So it's a square table missing a leg, and it's kind of lopsided. And so we have one T-square involving the planet Uranus, who is Wajat, the Cobra Kundalini Queen, and she's in a square to the Sun-Moon opposition. And then we have another T-square in this chart involving the ongoing alignment of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, which I call the Great Shift alignment in Capricorn, opposite Mercury. And most specifically, Mercury and Saturn are opposite today. Tomorrow, Mars in Aries is moving into a square, exact square to Jupiter. And over the next couple of weeks between now and August 24th, Mars is first going to be squaring Jupiter, then it's going to square Pluto, and then finally it's going to square Saturn. So Mars, the warrior king, is very prominent right now and very much in relationship with the great shift planets. And as I've said before, Mars is going to remain a player, remain in relationship to this great alignment through the end of the year. So we've entered into a period now that's going to be very much dominated by this square energy. A square is a challenging relationship between the warrior king and the great shift alignment. So what this means is things are going to be happening, but there is going to be a struggle. There's going to be a battle. Mars only shows up when there's a war. Set is square to Jupiter, and in the Egyptian myth, Set and Horus, Jupiter is Horus, fight a battle between each other that goes on for centuries. I don't expect this battle to go on for centuries, but I do expect to go on for the next several months, for the rest of the year. And the upshot of what the battle is about is, how do we make ourselves safe? There is some shifting energy that's going on this week, and the first shift will be taking place tomorrow when the planet Mercury enters Leo. And Mercury has been in Cancer for a long time, since May 28th. And so it turned retrograde, so we had a lot of time where the Cancer energy has been very intense. We've just moved out of the Cancer month. And so whenever the sun's in Cancer, we get other planets in the sign Cancer as well. And it really puts a lot of emphasis on that particular sign, whatever sign the sun is in. So we've had a lot of Cancerian energy. And the main thrust of the sign Cancer in traditional astrology is, how do we feel safe and secure? It's associated with home and family, which the archetype of home and family is that that's the place where a child can feel safe and secure. Of course, we all know that that's not always true, but that's the metaphor. In the Egyptian pantheon, the sign Cancer is associated with the divine parents, Nut and Geb. So this concept of home, family, we've been stuck at home. How do we feel safe? What do we do in order to keep ourselves, our families safe? That's an ongoing theme. And although that theme's not going away, the planet Venus is moving into the sign Cancer this week. Let me just go back to Mercury, which is how we think, it's how we articulate ideas, is now moving into the sign Leo. And it won't be there for long. Mercury is going to be in the sign Leo from August 4th through August 19th. So Mercury's moving at a pretty good clip right now. And what that also means is that things can move a little bit quicker. not always harmoniously, but certainly things are going to be moving faster. And so where we've been feeling very much stuck and very much in place, we can expect that beginning this week, things are going to start to move. And so Mercury in Leo wants to be heard. That's really important. In general, Leo is a sign that wants to be recognized, acknowledged, seen, appreciated, heard. And Mercury, the principle of communication in the sign Leo, means that the kind of overriding collective piece will be wanting to be heard. That's the collective message. The other shift I already mentioned, Venus is moving from Gemini, where it's been since April 3rd, so it's been there for a long time, 4 months. Venus is moving into the sign Cancer. So we're still going to have Cancerian energy around, but it's a slight shift in that Venus is about values. What do we want to receive? What will make us happy? What do we love? And Venus in Gemini loved variety and loves change and loves a lot of different ideas. And so we've had a lot of ideas flying around, some of them in conflict, different arguments taking place. Venus in Cancer, again, settles down into what it values is feeling safe, wanting to have an environment that feels safe and secure, wanting to feel stable, wanting to have tribal energy, wanting to be with family, an idealization of family energy. And so what we can expect with this shift for these two planets, these planets into other signs, and they're going to start moving faster, is that the instead of there being so much variety of energy and conflict and ideas, things are going to kind of narrow down a little bit to what can we do to make ourselves feel safe and secure. And can we be heard? Are we listened to? Is that need for safety and security heard on a collective level? And so everybody, we're a very divided country. I'm talking about the United States and a divided world. And so what matters to people is very different depending on what faction or what segment you're in. But, we're moving into a time where things are going to start happening more quickly. There are going to be struggles and battles taking place. And the overriding piece that's going to come up now is forget all of these arguments. We just want to know how we can feel safe. And you need to hear us. That's most important to us. What do we need to do in order to be safe and secure in our world? And so a lot of people are going to be sort of circling up the wagon, so to speak, even more than they already have. It's like, where do you feel safe? Who are the people who you feel safe with? Who do you want to be with? Who's your tribe? Which does mean that there can lead to a certain amount of suspicion of people that's not part of the tribe. So that's the kind of shift in energy that's going to be taking place. This is a very dynamic time, and it's a time of incredible change. And I've talked a lot about what the great shift planets mean. It's a dismantling of the container of society. And I hope and believe that at this point, people really are getting, we're not going to go back to any kind of normal. It doesn't exist. It's not going to happen. We have to start looking at what we want to create as we move forward. And we need to start thinking in terms of, who's our tribe? Are we all one tribe? Everybody's affected by this virus. This virus does not understand boundaries. It doesn't see national borders. It's everywhere, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. So what can we do on a collective level to feel safe and secure, not just in our own families, not just in our own communities, our own states, our own countries, but what does the world need to do in order to feel safe and secure? So we're moving toward an understanding that this is a bigger problem. There's been resistance around this will go away, it'll run its course. We're hearing all this stuff, but maybe it's not been affecting us directly. Things are shifting. This is pretty much everywhere right now, that we're in the midst of change. And this change is happening on several levels. It's obviously the coronavirus and COVID-19 and the illness that comes with that. But it's not just that. That spreads out. Are schools able to open? Are people able to return to their jobs? What's going to happen with the economy? All of this stuff is still here, not going away. So there we are. And then on top of it, we have these very real concerns about making structural changes in our society. Again, the dismantling of the container of our society and creating a new one to address systemic issues of racism, sexism, all kinds of things. The stuff's really hitting the fan, so to speak, and the need for change and the need for a new way of doing things is becoming ever more apparent. And with Mars being a player now, from now until January, he's the warrior king. This is set. He shows up when there is a battle. That's when Mars shows up. So we have that sense that we are entering into a battle. And we are. It's a battle for the future of our planet is what it comes down to. So, and we're all a part of that. We all get to contribute in some way to what this new world is going to look like. And a lot of people are referring to it as the new earth. Yeah, I like that term because it doesn't just include humans, it includes the animals, it includes the earth itself, the trees, the rivers, the streams, the oceans. When we talk about the sign Cancer from the perspective of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology and look at the divine parents who are Nut and Geb, they are the holders of our biosphere. Nut is the sky goddess that extends over the sky, and Geb is the earth that reaches up to his beloved, to Nut. And together, these divine parents hold that biosphere of earth and sky where we all live. And without it, we will die. They hold that home for us. So I love the concept of the new earth because for me, we have to include all of our brothers and sisters, the animals that live upon the earth, the plants, the streams, the minerals, everything that is here, all of it needs to be healthy. All of it needs to be safe and secure in order for all of us to flourish. So the biosphere has to be included for me. And the new earth brings that in. And so we all have a role in creating this in some way by visioning it. This is the Aquarius full moon. Aquarius is a visionary, looking forward and seeing what we want to create, and also understanding where we're stuck. During this full moon period, I used the keyword when I was doing my little write-up about the full moon. I used the keyword of oppression. And that's because of the dominance of Saturn, both in this full moon chart and also in the new moon chart. So this entire moon cycle is very much influenced by the planet Saturn, who is Sobek, the old king, who is that energy that doesn't want to let go of power, that wants to hang on to it no matter what. And even if the substance of the container changes so that there's something new that needs to happen in order to best address the needs of that substance, that container wants to hang on. That's Sobek energy. And so it can be very authoritarian, it can be very patriarchal, it can be very stuck. And when we as individuals are in a part of our life, a phase of our life where we're feeling stuck, we're having Sobek energy in our life. For many years, I worked with Venus Rising Association for Transformation, and my teacher, mentor, colleague, and friend, Linda Starwolf, is the founder of Venus Rising and the creator, along with a few other people, of the Shamanic Healing Initiatory process, also known as SHIP. And in that process, which you might check out at some point, it's an amazing process for transformation and change. There's a model that's used about how we change, and it's different stages that people go through in order to change. And part of the process of change is getting to that place where we feel stuck. If we didn't feel stuck, there wouldn't be any reason to change. And being in that place, it's a very Saturnian, very Sobek sort of place, we don't necessarily like it because, we can't move, we can't do anything. And here we are, we're not necessarily in quarantine anymore, but we're still living under the threat of COVID-19. We're still, feeling like maybe we can't travel as much as we want. Even if we aren't concerned about the virus, it's still very hard to just get on a plane or get in your car. Places aren't open, everything just is confining. People, are worried about money. They don't, jobs are changing, or maybe you don't have a job. The government's still arguing about the stimulus package and how much money to put out to people, or whether to continue the unemployment benefits which have lapsed, and how to do all of that. So we just have all this strife and arguing going on, and all these energies where people are clamoring to be heard and in disagreement with each other about what it is that we need to do in order to keep ourselves safe. So all of this is continuing to go on, and the end result is that many of us feel very restricted and very limited and very confined. And this is the energy of Sobek, the old king. So I would like to offer a journey with Sobek for today. We've done a few journeys with Sobek before, but not by himself. So today we're just going to journey with Sobek. And I just want to mention that a lot of people don't like Saturn. They don't like Saturn transits, but Saturn is the concept of time and the idea that we learn through experience. We learn through getting older, hopefully. We know a thing or two. The old king knows a thing or two. Where he gets stuck himself is in understanding that he's got to pass the baton. He's got to allow himself to die. He's got to let go of power. He's got to bring the new generation, the new energy in, instead of battling it and defending himself against it. And we all have a Sobek within. We all have a part of ourselves that doesn't want to let go. It wants to just hang on to the status quo. And we do that for a number of reasons. We might be afraid, if I let go, I don't know where I'll end up. If I leave that job I no longer like, how, I won't have health insurance. I won't, I won't ever get as good a job. If I leave this relationship that's not working for me, nobody will ever want to be with me again. If I leave this place that I don't want to live in anymore, maybe the next place will be worse. So it's that voice that wants to prevent us from changing. And so it's time to look at that, because this old container, this old idea, this old attachment to the way of doing things is really strong. And the piece that I wrote on Facebook about this full moon and the strength of the energy of Saturn Sobek during this full moon, I talked about the patriarchy. And the patriarchy is a system of thought that we had lived under on this planet for thousands of years. And I'm always really careful when I use the word patriarchy, because a lot of people think it's about men, and it's not. It is a system of thought that overvalues action and undervalues receptivity. And what's important there is, if we're receptive, we allow ourselves to receive. We allow energy to come into us. And if we're focused on moving outward, onward and upward, bigger and better, all of that kind of energy, then we don't stop to allow ourselves to reflect and allow ourselves to receive. And we don't even value that. So we can think it's an overemphasis of yang energy and a devaluing of yin energy. And of course, these two need to be in dynamic balance. When they're out of balance, when yang energy is more powerful than yin energy, then we're out of balance. And we've been out of balance on this planet for a long time. And a lot of the issues that we're struggling with right now, climate change, the abuse of power, all of these sorts of things, that we're aware we need to correct, they come from this attachment to a system of thought that overvalues action and undervalues receptivity. And so it's time for this system to die. This, to me, is the bigger picture around what the Great Shift Alignment is about. And in order for this shift, this energy to die, and for something new to happen, for a new earth to be born, it has to die within us. So let's go on a journey with Sobek and see where he's hanging on within us. And so Sobek is often portrayed in a couple of different ways. Sometimes as an old man with a long beard, gray hair. He's very often shown carrying a lantern because he shows the way and he directs us in a particular sort of way, and we can't look anywhere else. We just have to look at the way that he's pointing us. In the Egyptian pantheon, he's often associated with a crocodile. So he can be shown as a person with the body of a man and the head of a crocodile. Crocodiles, related to American alligators, crocodiles are, they hide under the water, they're very still, and then they can move quite quickly, and they digest their food very slowly. So they're about integration and digestion, and digesting things very slowly, kind of, taking their time with it. And the feeling again of Saturn Sobek is, to me, it's often like having your head in a vise. And you might want to look this way, you might want to look that way, you might want to look up, you might want to look down, but you can't look anywhere except right at what the issue is. So let's take a look at the issue. What's the issue in your life that needs to die, that needs to be let go, so that you can fully move forward and adapt to what you need to contribute to the birth of the new earth? So let's take a couple of nice deep breaths. Dropping down into your body. Releasing and letting go of any distractions. And I want you to imagine that you are sitting next to a river. And this river is flowing quite fluidly. It's really moving along. Might be a big river, might be a smaller river. It's your river. Let it be whatever it needs to be. But it is beautiful. It's a beautiful day where you are. So just take a nice deep breath, look around, enjoy the place that you have come to. And imagine that you see something under the surface of that water that's coming to the surface, and there's a pair of eyes that are looking at you. And you realize, perhaps with a little bit of alarm, that this is a crocodile. And that it is moving toward you. It is coming to the side of the river. And it begins to move out of it. And as it does, this crocodile transforms into human form. And this human, and this may be Sobek, the human with the crocodile head. This may be Saturn, the old man with the beard. Whatever's right for you. This human comes and sits in front of you. And he has something that he wants you to look at. Something about you. Something about your life. This is a place in your life where you feel stuck. Where you feel like you can't move. Where you want desperately to move, but you can't. And Sobek is here to tell you that you need to look at this thing. This part of your life. And he has some questions for you. Some questions he wants you to answer. So if you're willing, take a nice deep breath and listen to these following questions from Sobek. In this situation, what is working? What's going well? In this situation, what is not working? What is just plain wrong? In this situation, what would you like to have happen? Let your imagination run free. What would you like to have happen? In this situation, what steps can you take toward manifesting a change? What can you do? In this situation, who or where is your support? This is important. Who or where is your support? I'm going to be quiet now for about a minute and let you journey with Sobek. Let him continue to share and download information with you about what it is he wants you to look at, that place where you're stuck. He wants you to pay attention to it. Receive a download now from Sobek, the old king. The old king reaches out now and hands to you a scroll. And on this scroll is written the information that he's given you. Remember that the feeling of being stuck is part of the process of change. We wouldn't change if something wasn't working. We wouldn't change unless something was over. Sobek steps away from you now, and in his place is Isis, Queen Mother of Heaven, she of the rainbow wings. With your permission, she wraps her wings around you, and she invites you to lie back into her arms and receive healing from her. Receive her love. She's here to remind you that she's always here. Through any process of transformation and change that you go through, Isis is always with you. So lie back against her. Take a few nice deep breaths and receive her loving, compassionate, and healing energy. So take a nice deep breath. Come back into the room. And thank you. We will talk again.